Action films are often so energetic and exciting enough that it's easy to overlook mistakes while being wowed by all of the mesmerizing mayhem. Yet unfortunately, this video seeks to ruin all of that by drawing your attention to some major action movie mistakes that you most likely missed, but now won't surely ever do so again. You're welcome. So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 action movie mistakes you can't unsee. Number 10. The extra who forgets to play dead. Nobody. The role of stuntmen and extras in action movies cannot be underestimated. They take the brutal hits that sell the hero's unstoppable badassery, though like anybody else, they're far from flawless. Case in point, the terrifically entertaining Bob Odenkirk starring action vehicle Nobody features an hilariously extra-related gaffe during its blood-soaked climax. In the third act, former government assassin Hutch teams up with his brother Harry and father David in order to take down a Russian crime lord and his seemingly unending fleet of goons. But keep your eyes peeled moments after David starts wailing away on the bad guys with a shotgun, as you'll see that just as Dutch fires his gun whilst moving backwards down a hallway, there's an apparently dead bad guy laying in a hallway behind him, except the actor in question evidently missed his mark or hadn't been cued incorrectly, and so suddenly starts playing dead once he realizes what's going on, his head hilariously slumping over while the camera stays on him. It's obviously not where your eyes are supposed to be looking in this scene, so it is easily missed, hence why it made it into the final cut of the film at all. Number 9. The self-repairing Alfa Romeo, 6 Underground. Now, 6 Underground might well be the most technically sloppy film of Michael Bay's career, for while even Bay's best movies tout their fair share of mistakes, this one is littered with them in basically every single scene. But Bay gets perhaps the most insultingly egregious no-effort blooper out of the way in the film's first 5 minutes, where the neon green Alfa Romeo, driven by 6, is sideswiped by an oncoming truck. This results in the car's left wing mirror being ripped off and considerable scraping damage being done to the left side of the car. But as soon as 6 drives away, the mirror is magically reattached and there's not a damn scratch on that side of the car. Only after the car receives considerably more punishment throughout the chase does the wing mirror finally disappear again, and the left side of the Alfa Romeo looks suitably damaged, suggesting that Bay might have reconstructed this sequence during post-production. Number 8. The bad guy's shape-shifting gun. London Has Fallen. A movie mistake that's easily explainable is one thing, but one that has no apparent rhyme or reason can end up fascinating film fans for years or even decades. London Has Fallen, while hardly an iconic movie, nevertheless rocks a real head-scratcher of a continuity error, when, in the third act, Mike Banning, played by Gerard Butler, takes on a fleet of well-armed bad guys in a tunnel. Now, one of the remaining goons is very clearly shown holding an AK-47 as he hides from Banning's gunfire in an alcove. The man eventually exits cover and opens fire, still holding the AK, but when Banning slides out of cover and guns him down, the goon falls to the floor while inexplicably holding a far smaller MP5. We can only assume that the sequence was shot over several days and the prop master screwed up by giving the extra the wrong weapon, but considering an AK-47 is much larger than an MP5, it's a pretty sloppy mistake to make continuity-wise. Number 7. Dwayne Johnson's magic goatee, Fast and Furious 6. The fact that most of the Fast and Furious movies are as visually coherent as they are is frankly a damn miracle, and while director Justin Lin absolutely delivered the action-packed goods on the 6th movie, he couldn't stop one outrageous facial hair-related mistake slipping through the cracks. You see, midway through the movie, Hobbs's goatee randomly disappears for an entire scene, only to reappear without explanation. Considering the film takes place over a relatively concentrated period of time, there's no way to reasonably explain this within the world of the movie, beyond Hobbs being so damn manly that he can shave and grow it back 5 minutes later, of course. Going by Occam's razor, it's reasonable to assume that the sequence where Hobbs is sans goatee was a reshoot filmed after Dwayne Johnson shaved his facial hair for another role. Even so, with a $250 million budget in play, you think that Universal might have spent a few bucks giving him a digital goatee at least, right? Number 6. The reverse waterfall, Anaconda. Editing mistakes related to basic continuity are a dime a dozen, but those which literally defy the laws of physics, well, they're a little less so. And so we come to the cult fave creature feature Anaconda, which rolls out an all-timer of a WTF mistake that you'll never be able to forget. In the third act, as Terry is tending to a wounded doctor friend, we cut to an exterior shot of the boat sailing downriver past a waterfall, except the waterfall is flowing backwards. Evidently, this is because the shot is being played in reverse for whatever reason. Perhaps the filmmakers forgot to capture footage of the boat leaving the area and simply hoped that audiences wouldn't have noticed a reversed shot. But something as flagrantly weird as water sucking itself out of a river and levitating up a waterfall definitely draws attention pretty damn easily, and so there is a chance that you might have already spotted this one yourself. Given that this mistake could have been rectified in about 10 minutes by anyone with a semi-decent grasp of Adobe Premiere, it's absolutely hilarious that it made it into a $45 million Hollywood blockbuster. Number 5. The Visible Horse Trainer, John Wick Chapter 3. The John Wick movies are absolute masterworks of tight fight choreography and precision-sharp camera work, though it's impossible to make everything feel totally seamless, especially when you're dealing with animals. Ignoring the classic Hollywood maxim of never working with children or animals, John Wick's third installment saw Keanu Reeves' titular assassin take control of a trusty horse in an attempt to flee his many attackers. But before John can get on horseback, he needs to dispatch the assassins in the stables, and while he's busily doing so, one of the horses can be seen excitedly rearing up in the background. Yet, if you look at the left-hand side of the screen, you might spot a horse trainer clearly motioning the horse to rear up and down throughout the sequence, raising its arms up and down in time with the horse. Now, while it shouldn't surprise anyone that the sequence was carefully controlled to ensure maximum safety and comfort for everyone involved, especially the horses, the John Wick series has genuinely done a great job of concealing that for the sake of brutality. The trainer could have easily been painted out with a few seconds of VFX magic, but alas, they made it into the final cut. Number 4. Worst extra ever. Independence Day. In this sci-fi blockbuster's third act, keep your eyes peeled when the scene shifts to the RAF in the Iraqi desert. One of the soldiers in the background, identified only by his name badge as Ken Saracen, has the most distractingly dangerous trigger discipline, or lack thereof, that you've probably ever seen in a movie. Throughout the scene, the soldier inexplicably has his finger on the trigger, something that no trained soldier would ever do, especially when simply discussing logistics and, not in the heat of combat. Why the soldier even has his gun out at all remains a firm mystery. Did the filmmakers really think the audience wouldn't understand who these people were without a firearm in the shot? One can only take an educated guess that the prop department simply gave the extra a gun but no actual direction for what to do with it, and so he simply improvised, quite poorly but hilariously at least. On the one hand, Independence Day can get away with silly nonsense like this because it is a thoroughly silly movie, but on the other hand, you're never going to be able to watch this scene the same way again. Number 3. Keyes' floating upper torso. Predator 2. Now, Predator 2 may not hold a candle to John McTiernan's original, but it's still a distinctive piece of work with a number of memorable, visually creative set pieces. Case in point, we have the sequence in which Peter Keyes and his team plan to trap the Predator in a slaughterhouse. But of course, the Predator quickly turns the table, butchering Keyes' men and finally finishing Keyes himself by hurling a smart disc through the air, effortlessly slicing him in two. We're shown the lower half of the corpse falling to the floor, but bafflingly, the upper half is nowhere to be seen. Within the logic of the scene, we're left to then conclude that the top half of the body is just, floating around in the slaughterhouse somehow. In a 2021 interview with the Alien vs. Predator Galaxy podcast, director Stephen Hopkins confirmed that the mistake was a result of MPAA, who required him to cut the upper half of the body falling to the floor in order to secure an R rating. Given that the raw footage may very well still exist somewhere in a vault, it's a shame that this utterly brutal demise hasn't ever been restored for any of the Predator 2 home video releases. Number 2. The camera wearing a jacket. The Matrix. Ask any filmmaker what they think of reflections and they'll tell you that they are a huge pain in the ass. And while these days CGI will often be deployed to remove visible crew members and camera equipment from shots involving mirrors and reflective surfaces, for The Matrix, the Wachowskis tried to get away with an altogether sneakier, more analog trick. When Neo and Morpheus visit the Oracle, we're briefly shown a close-up of the doorknob as Neo goes to grab it, showing a warped reflection of himself and Morpheus. Look closer though and you can see a camera lens in front of the pair, and while the camera itself is seemingly disguised under what appears to be a jacket and a sheet painted to match Morpheus' own suit and tie. It's a pretty clever lo-fi attempt to deceive the audience that flew pretty well under the radar. That is until the recent 4K ultra-high definition release, where it's much easier to spot the camera pointed at the doorknob. And number 1, shooting London in South Africa. Bloodshot. Location doubling is extremely common in movies of all kinds, and generally speaking, Hollywood has gotten smart enough about it that you'll probably never notice it unless you're native to the area in question. But where the deception of London in Vin Diesel's sci-fi actioneer Bloodshot is concerned, even a blind man would know that they're not looking at footage captured in the English capital. Despite a decent chunk of the film taking place in central London, most of the London material was actually shot in Cape Town, South Africa, and rather than redress the locations to better resemble the city, they basically just filmed Cape Town as is and hilariously hoped that nobody would notice. That during a third act vehicular chase through the streets of, air quotes, London, the geography, architecture, street signs, and especially the license plates of the cars make it overwhelmingly obvious that we were looking at anywhere else but the implied location. London, let's be honest, looks nothing like this, at which point you have to consider why they didn't just set these scenes in Cape Town instead. It would have had zero meaningful impact on the plot. In terms of logistical filmmaking, we can assume that it was just cheaper for the $45 million actioner to shoot in South Africa than in the UK. But if they were committed to setting this sequence in London, could they not have at least splashed a little cash on some basic set decoration and a few UK license plates? Come on. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 action movie mistakes you can't unsee. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Instagram and Twitter, where it's at RetroJ, but the O is a 0. Hope to see you over there, my friends. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. Hope you're treating yourself with love and respect, because you deserve all the best things in life, all right? And do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise. You are a massive ledge, and you deserve the bloody best. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.